Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I thought today we could go over some cruise terms, and I was looking in my house for a mighty cruise ship, something I could use to show you around a ship, and I have nothing like that, but I found this hover raider. I won't quite focus on it. That was with my husband's toys from the 1970s. And I think this will do just fine. We just have to use our imaginations. So this is a Matchbox bottle rings hoverator made in England. So I thought real quick I'll give it a quick clean off before we start because it's kind of dusty. So for people who haven't watched any of these videos, I'm not an expert on, I'm not a captain. I'm not an expert on cruise ships. I have been on a cruise, so that's my expertise. And I spoke to my husband, who was an Eagle, or I should say he is. I think you always are. He's an Eagle Scout, and he has badges in canoeing, sailboat, and motorboating. Seems funny. Anyway, and so he gave me some pointers for a few things, and then I Googled. So feel free to comment if you hear things that you just go, Linda, that's not it. But, let's all be nice in the comments because we're just here for relaxation, really, and distraction. All right. Now, that looks pretty good. Nice and tidy. I mean, not really. I could do better, but we're not going to spend all day on this. Okay. So, picture that this is a cruise ship. So, a lot of these terms will carry over to other kinds of boats and crafts, vessels, maritime vessels. But I'm kind of talking about like a commercial cruise ship like Royal Caribbean or Celebrity, those kind of things. That's what I've been on mostly. So that's where we'll start. Okay. So on a ship, you have the bow and the stern. And the bow will be at the front of the ship, and the stern is at the back of the ship. And you might think, I'm going on a cruise to relax. I don't need to know this. It's very helpful because the crew does use these terms. They're not going to say, go to the front of the ship. They'll say, go to the bow of the ship. I think usually they do. I mean, probably if you were like, I don't know where that is. They're very friendly. But in general, they're going to say bow and stern. And midship. And I'll give you a tip. If you tend towards motion sickness and you want to go on a cruise, when you book your room, try to find a room midship in the lower part of the ship, like the lowest room you can find. And that will have, because of the way a ship moves like this. See, this end is going up and down big time. The part with the least motion would be right here. And also, if you ever get seasick on a ship, try to move yourself to the center of the ship. And sometimes older ships, at least, have a promenade deck. That's usually deck 6, I think, maybe deck 7. And it goes around the outside here. If you can get outdoors on the middle of the ship, that can really help with any motion sickness. Okay, so that's an aside. And there will be asides during this video, I think. Okay, so we have the stern is in the back, the bow is in the front, and the midship is in the middle. I should be doing this where you can see it, shouldn't I? Okay, and then there's fore and aft. Now, these are more used as directions, and they do use these on board cruise ships. If you talk to the crew, they will say, that restaurant is 4. Well, 4 means forward, basically. So anything that is 4 of where you are is going to be towards the front. If they say that, the Sunset Bar is aft of us, that would mean it's going towards the back, towards the stern. So aft is this way and 4 is this way. So if you're here and they say it's 4, you're going to go this way. If they say it's aft, you're going to go this way. Now, here's something actually important, and this you will use a lot if you go on board a ship. Port and starboard. All right, let's move. Bow, midship, stern, aft, and 4. And we'll put port and starboard. All right. So these are the sides of the ship. What side of the ship? And they'll always be pointing towards the bow or the front of the ship. So if you are walking in a hallway like right here, facing the bow of the ship, the port side will be on your left, and the starboard side, and I'm saying board with a heavy board, but usually people say starboard, but starboard side is on the right. Maybe it just depends on your accent. Okay. And then the port side will have red. We'll have red lights. So like there'd be a light right here and a light here and a light here, and it would be red. And the starboard side has green lights, a light here, and a light along there. And that is so that when other boats see them coming, they know which side they're looking at, which direction the ship is heading based on whether they're seeing the red or the green lights. You could kind of tell what direction it's going. However, on board a ship, and this is true, I think on every cruise ship I've been on, and I've been on a few, they will have on the walls, on the interior hallways, red and green lights or red and green signs, or even red and green arrows on the carpeting. There was one ship I went on that had red carpeting on the port side and green carpeting on the starboard side, I believe. And then when you come off of an elevator on a cruise ship, sometimes you're so turned around and you're like, I don't know which direction my room is in. So knowing that you are on the red side or the green side is super helpful. And a little trick to remember it that my husband taught me, that he made up himself, I think. I don't think this is an official trick, but is port has 4 letters and left has 4 letters. Starboard is a bigger word. Right is a bigger word than left. And green is a bigger word than red. So like starboard's a big word, right's bigger than port, right's bigger than left, and green's bigger than red. So you know that starboard is the right side of the ship when you're facing the bow, and it's green. And port is the left side of the ship when you're facing this direction, and it's on your left side and it's red. I'm not kidding you. If you don't know this when you go on a cruise ship and then you do know it, it makes a big difference. Because you can easily get turned around, especially on these giant ships. You're just like, where am I? And all of a sudden you're walking down the wrong hall trying to find your room. And I don't even get the drink package. I can't imagine how those people manage. Okay. So that's pretty much the, so we have the bow, the stern, the midship. We we have port side and we have starboard side. Okay, I think that's pretty good for that. All right, so now you know your way around a ship. We'll move that up here. Now the first thing that you have to do when you actually I just thought of another word. Hold on. Let me get out my pen and paper that I hadn't thought of. They use the word that they probably use this with other things, maybe flights, I can't remember, but they definitely use it with ships, is embarkate or embarkation. Am I spelling this right? I don't know. So this means you are getting on board the ship. So if you're embarking on a cruise, or they say, but it will say like at embarkation, and that means you're about to get on the ship. That's embarkation, is when you get on the ship. And the way you get on the ship and off the ship is the gangway. So they'll say you're going to go on embarkation, you have to go to the gangway, and then you'll be on the ship. And the gangway is just like, it's just like a little walkway, and it's usually in one of, like, maybe depends on the ship, but one of the lower floors, and it goes from the ship onto the dock, and they'll sometimes have two of them, but they have a gate around it, and they'll have a security check. So you walk down and you go through security, and then you walk right onto the ship, if it can dock at a dock. But I'll tell you what happens if it cannot. Okay, so on embarkation day, you take the gangway, and when you leave, it's disembarkation. Yeah, I think that's right. That's when you leave the ship. They'll have that too. All right. But the first thing you do when you board a ship, and usually have to do it within the first, before they leave. So usually within the first, like, I can't remember. I'm going to say, depending on what time you get on the ship, the first 3 hours, or maybe it's 24 hours. I don't know. That I don't remember. But I always do it right away. Just get it done. Be done with it. You do the muster drill. So it used to be, when I took my first cruises, you had to go to your room, you had to find your life jacket, you had to take your life jacket, and then meet up at the muster station. And there are a lot of muster stations. So yours might be, out here on the promenade deck, or it might be in the restaurant or one of the bars or whatever. And you meet up with basically a group of other people, and you all meet there, and you sit down with your life jacket, and they'll sound the emergency sound on the ship. That's like I think it's 3 horns, maybe, ba, ba, ba. And then it's muster drill time. And you go down there, and they tell you what would happen if there was an emergency, and if you had to make your way to the lifeboat. Now, some of them, my honeymoon cruise, we met right outside our lifeboat, but some of them, they just sit you down and tell you, we would then take you to the lifeboat. And I don't think they even take you to it, and I don't remember. But anyway, but now, the last cruise I went on, they have an app, and it's pretty nice, actually. You watch a video, and it gives you the whole muster drill information, and then you have to find where your life jacket is, I think, within your room. I feel like you did that. I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, and then you had to walk down to your muster station and just check in there on the app, and then you're done. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was really nice. So that's a new way. But yeah, so that's the muster drill and muster station. I don't think there's anything else about that. Let's see, what are these ones? Oh, yeah. I wrote down a couple other things. Let me just check. I wrote some notes here. Let me see if I have anything. Okay, I know what else. These aren't important terms, but a galley on a boat. Oh, God. No. A galley is a kitchen. And a lot of times on board, they will have galley tours. And I did one that was free one time. And it was very interesting, I thought, to see how they cook for all those people. And they kind of, you could go back there and see them working and everything and see how clean it is. Oh, it's so clean. So that's an interesting thing to do. Some of them charge. I saw one ship charged like $170, but I think you got to go up and see the, I should have looked up this word, the captain's quarters, not quarters. No, wait, it's coming to me. Give me a sec. The bridge. But we did one that was just the galley. And I think they have multiple galleys or kitchens on board. So we just saw one of them. But it was really interesting. They taught us like to take, if you need to grate Parmesan cheese, to freeze the cheese and then do it. And it'll grate easier. I forget what else. They taught us some tips that I thought were kind of fun. Okay, so galley. And then a cabin on board a ship or even a boat is just basically any covered room. But on a ship, they will call it your cabin. They'll say your cabin number is, your cabin this. But it's also called, and this is the room where your bed is, and, you know, it's also called a stateroom. So I don't know if it depends on ships, which way they phrase it more. I feel like the higher end ships call them staterooms, and like the lower end, not lower, but, you know, regular, call them cabins. But I think it's interchangeable as far as that goes. But a cabin could be anywhere on board a ship that has a roof, I think, could be a cabin. A stateroom's particularly a place where you're sleeping, you know, a bed. I think that's right. I could be wrong about that cabin part. I think it's right, though. What else? Oh, some ships, and not all, and maybe this is more European, have heads. They call them a head. It'll say head this way. And that is a bathroom. So if you ever see that, that's what that is. It's a bathroom, a restroom, a toilet, a place to go to the bathroom. And then, I know we were talking about the gangway. So actually that leads me to a different, hold on, let me think about okay. So you will have ports of call on a ship, on a cruise. So when you book your cruise, it will say like your ports are, you know, whatever, Miami, Cancun, you know, whatever. That's your port. Now some ports, like Nassau, have huge, gigantic docks. I feel like I'm not using the right term for that. I guess it's a dock. Anyway, where they can hold even the most massive ship. I mean, they can hold any ship. But some islands are smaller and they don't have big places for the ships to, you know, pull up and put the gangway down. So you will have to take a tender. And a tender is basically a lifeboat. Maybe some ships have special tenders or tenders that come from shore to pick people up, but I think a lot of them are their lifeboats. But I've definitely been on some with open tops, so they must come off from shore. So I won't say that for sure. But a tender is a boat that comes out to your boat, and they put I guess it's still called a gangway. That I don't know. But they put a thing in between them, and you walk out onto the tender. Now, I watch a channel that is about cruising with a wheelchair, And I know sometimes they have trouble with the tender stops. They can't get onto the tenders. So that's something to look out for. You can actually look and see whether the port has a tender or not. So I would say that. And sometimes if you have to wait for a tender, it can take a while. So sometimes that'll slow down your time in port. I don't mind a tender because I can get up. I'll get up first thing and try to get on the very first one that I can. So it doesn't bother me, but I could understand why people avoid ports with tender. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. In port, they might ask you if you want to book any excursions. Those are just cruise run tours. And the good thing with an excursion is that they will get you back on the ship one way or another. And either they will hold the ship for you or they will get you to the next port. I mean, if their excursion's late, they take care of you. If you get hurt on their excursion, like my niece just broke her foot on an excursion and they paid for her medical care, even though she didn't have insurance beyond the regular, I was surprised by that actually. But the bad thing with excursions, a lot of times they're more expensive than things you could book yourself. So it's sort of a give and take. You just decide what you want to do. But that's what they call the, trips they sell you from the cruise ship. They're called excursions. Let's see, is there anything? Oh, I know what else. Okay, so I wrote these down and I don't know. These might need correction. So if you really care about this, you could Google it, and there are a lot more than I have here. But when we were on our cruise, the last one, there was both a COVID and a, what do you call that stomach? I can't think of the word. Anyway, a super contagious stomach bug going around. What is the word for it? And it was really bad on the cruise before ours, but they went ahead and let ours go. But the health department was on board, so they were being so cautious, and it made everything hard. Like you had to get served at the buffet, and it just took a long time. And it was a spring break cruise, so it was completely jam-packed. It wasn't the best cruise. But anyway, it was a Royal Caribbean, and we kept hearing the call. And my sister said we kept hearing this now. To be honest, I don't remember. I do know they kept calling out words, and she said they kept saying Delta, Delta, Delta. And we looked it up, and Delta, 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 apparently, is biohazard. So we think it was because so many people were throwing up. Oh, and we had rough seas. Yeah, it was rough. My sister got a little sick. I was fine, though. I had a great time. Anyway, Delta, 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 yeah, that's biohazard. And I guess different ships, like I read some ships say Delta Team, Delta Team. So I don't know what the rules are about that. I don't know if that's just a cruise ship thing. But the other one my sister said she heard a lot was Alpha, 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 which is a medical emergency. I'm not confirming or denying her story. I don't know. And then there's Bravo, 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 which I don't think I've ever heard. But that's fire. And this one, which you don't want to hear, Oscar, 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 which means passenger overboard. So if you ever hear those things, you know what they mean. But there are other ones too. So yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I think that's it. And I'm probably running out of memory on my phone at this point. So I should wrap it up. My new phone should be here tomorrow, I think. That'll be exciting. I'm very excited. All right. Well, let me know if you learned anything. Or did you already know it all? I don't know. I didn't know all this stuff before, I started cruising. I don't think. And I was never a person who went on boats beyond like an electric motorboat to go fishing when I grew up. My uncle and I used to fish a lot, but otherwise I wasn't like a sailor, even though I lived near the Great Lakes. You think maybe I would have been. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Bow, stern, midship.